Hello, welcome to the Wealth Influencers Summit. Please join me in welcoming David Noble, Market President of Midland States Bank. He is here today to give us a brief talk about capacity building for entrepreneurs. Welcome, David.
Greetings, everyone. First, let me say thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation. Um, very interested in the outcomes that come from these opportunities to be a resource to those in the communities that I serve. And today, I was asked to talk a little bit about capacity building for minority and small businesses. And where I want to start, because I want you to take a walk with me for a minute as we look at what are the different things when we talk about capacity building. What are you capacity building for? So let's just talk about your business model first, because you start off with an idea concept. You already have a business; it's working. When you're looking at capacity building, one of the things that you need to do is assess your business model and your environment. Your operating environment is constantly changing. So that means you have market pressures that you have to deal with. You have to be able to make decisions in both short, mid, and long-term mindsets to achieve certain outcomes based off of key metrics, which you need some key metrics, which I would say are checkpoints along your journey as a business. So your business model, first and foremost, needs to be one that is viable, sustainable, and scalable. Because if a business is not growing, a business is normally dying. So that mindset of, first it has to be viable, then it has to be sustainable. I have to be able to continue it, continue the process, continue getting outcomes, but then also scalable, which means that I can grow it. And in some instances, you want it replicatable. If you want to replicate the model in another market, your operating environment is something that the business model needs to be tailored for. So that way you understand how you must move in the market that you're operating in. And then you have to assess the resources that you have available, because in order to effectuate that business model, you're going to need certain resources. Those resources, it's not just capital. Um, it's not just one particular thing. You might look at resources that I have available based off my business model. One, do I have capital? Two, do I have the professional skill set? Not just me as an individual, but the team. So your team is actually a resource. It's no such thing as a business of I. For the most part, you always have either partners or employees, associates, colleagues, somebody that you're dealing with that helps you execute that business model. You need to assess your resources to make sure that you have the ability to operate in your environment. And then also you have to look at strategic planning. So, once you get the business model set based off the environment, you assess your resources. What are the strategies and tactics that you're going to use to open up the market that you're trying to operate in? How are you going to grow the business? It's the one adage around working in the business versus working on it. A lot of small business owners, especially minority business owners that are small, you're spending time in the business. So you're actually working in the business. Well, that hinders you from being able to step outside of the business, look at the business, see where you have challenges, see where you have opportunities, and make the necessary adjustments to address both. If you do not have the ability to strategic plan, you don't make the time for it. And this is something that is ongoing. In some instances, it is weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, but it's an ongoing process. If you don't take that time, what you might find is you have your head down working in the business and the market has passed you by because you haven't taken the time to work on the business. Now, looking at those four key things, you also want to understand, when you're looking to grow the business, it's going to be different things that you need at different phases. A lot of times, smaller companies don't have the opportunity because they don't have the financial resources to be able to go get a marketing firm, a PR firm, an IT company, a controller or CFO to help manage the finances. So some things are more important than others. You have to understand, based off the phase that your business is in, how it is growing, what do you need at that particular time. So you're probably going to need to add these things on to the business, but the question is when, because your cash flow will dictate a lot of times when you can absorb another expense. So you want to make sure that you're looking at, as you grow the business, it's not just you, a council of one, but that you have a council of people. I call it personal board of directors, for me on a personal level. But your business, you can have an advisory board of folks that can help you plan. So when you're planning your growth, these folks have expertise in a different areas, might have done what you're doing in your business, but their company's much larger or they're retired. So you get a chance to learn from both knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which that cost is a lot cheaper than you learning as you go. But you're able to map out the future of the business and lean on other resources to allow you to work on the in some instances while continue to work in the business. But those professional service providers, as you add those particular services onto the company, some will have a direct impact on if the business grows. Some it's just a resource that you need that really is an expense. You have to figure out, when you're trying to make additional money, how much is that going to cost? When you add these other professional services into your business model, which ones are going to have more impact on your bottom line revenue? So that way you add ones that add revenue to the company or create cost efficiencies. You look to add those first. Other ones that, okay, well, I just need this particular service, but I don't have to have it now. That's something that you need to take the time to sit down and strategically plan that. Now, we're talking about business environment, business model, strategic planning, resource assessment, a personal board of directors or advisory board that you use, and the business being viable, sustainable, and scalable. Let's go back to the question of capital. And a lot of businesses feel like they need access. You do need access to capital. Capital is the lifeblood of an organization, of a business. So you do need it. But what are you going to do when you get it becomes the question. Because if you mismanage that capital when you get it, or you get the wrong type of capital, that can actually hurt, hinder, or destroy your business, create a death spiral in the business, because the capital that you needed, you didn't get that kind of capital. You got the wrong capital. Now, what do I mean by that? You have different sources of capital now for minority businesses. You have your banks, you have credit unions, you have what they call CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions. You have third-party financing that, literally you can get approved in a week, maybe without financials. You have factoring. The cost of that capital and how it behaves, all of those sources I just named are very different. Oh, and I left out revolving loan funds. So you have community and economic development revolving loan funds. So those different sources of capital behave different and have different strings attached to them. Some capital that's very easy to get might cost a lot. Some capital that is high risk might cost a lot because they're looking at your credit profile, looking at past issues that you might have had, and they're literally pricing the credit based off of that. So that's something that when you're looking at different capital, you have to understand what kind of capital that you need. Now, one of the good things about having an advisory board is you have people that will have experience with these different sources of capital, hopefully, that can help guide you or be a sounding board to make sure that, nope, I want to make sure that I get the right kind of capital. So in some instances, you can go get bank financing. That's what makes sense. Bank financing is available. It normally is the cheapest capital that you can get, but you have to be able to qualify for it. It's flexible. You have different kind of terms, different kind of uses, working capital lines of credit, installment loans, real estate loans. So you have the ability with those different types of loans as a bank gives you to be more flexible in how you're going to use it in your business. You have different other types of capital, and I'll just briefly talk about CDFIs. That the requirements for that capital is a little bit different. In some instances, what you simply have is a CDFI has been given money on Black and brown businesses. So that means they're literally trying to find businesses to give that money to that qualify. Their credit requirements might be a little bit more flexible. The way that you can use that capital, it might not be as diverse as what you might get from a bank, but it's designed to be injected into minority companies. It's tailored that way. So a lot of times it might be flexible based off of challenges that they think minority companies have. You have some sources of capital, revolving loan funds that are geographically specific. So I will give an example. Let's say you live in the city of St. Louis. City of St. Louis has an entity called the St. Louis Development Corporation that has loans they provide for businesses, but they have to be in the city of St. Louis. So that's something that when you are looking for capital, you as a business owner need to take the opportunity to do some research and do it at a level to where it's local, and then it's market level. So local might be local neighborhoods. It might be different programs that are targeted towards different neighborhoods. Then you might have programs that are targeted towards a certain area of the city. Then you might have programs that are targeted towards the city or the county that you're in. Then it goes to state level, then it goes to national level. Now, you might think that's a lot of research to do. Well, if that capital is flexible and that capital fits your needs, I would say that research is well worth it. A lot of times that capital that you're going to get from the government, is it going to require a lot of paperwork? Yes, in some instances, but the terms of repayment, the flexibility, if you run into trouble, might be very different than if you look at financing from a bank. So those things are good to research. Now, before I close out, because I don't have a Q&A, I love the Q&A when folks get a chance to ask me a question specifically about their business. A lot of this, yeah, you hear it, it's great to hear, but when you want to apply it, if it's relative to your business, it's easier to absorb. But I want to talk about when you're looking to go get capital, what we call the 5 C's of credit. That, these are 5 different things that primarily are used to base lending decisions off of. So you have character. Character's typically reflected in somebody's credit history. You can see how somebody treats their debts. You can see if somebody has been sued in the past and had a judgment for them, if they file bankruptcy, so on and so forth. So your personal credit history is very important. You will not be able to get a credit score on your business. That is something that credit with a business, from a business perspective, is normally with your vendors, somebody that's giving you supplies, but it's not a credit score that we're looking at for a business when we're looking at your capacity. Capacity is what's called debt to income ratio. So how much debt versus income do you have? That capacity means that you could be over leveraged, or you could be not so highly leveraged, so you have a high capacity to repay debt. Capital, the amount of money that you have, is important. You have to have some skin in the game as a business. Literally, if you are asking for somebody to finance your business 100%, you're literally asking them to believe in your business more than you do, and you want them to have majority ownership share in your business and trust you to manage it right. No, you got to have some skin in the game. Typically, your other sources of capital are going to be larger than yours as an owner in the beginning anyway. So you look at those that are providing you capital as a business partner. That's really the way that you should look at them. For me, when I'm talking to a client, I look at them like partners. I don't look at them like clients, because once we loan money to you, we're in this together, good or bad. Can't just walk away from each other. So literally, we're married. So that capital piece, you got to have some skin in the game. Collateral, that's simply an asset that you can use as security for a loan. So do you have collateral? Is it your home that you have as collateral? Is it an investment account that you have as collateral? That is factored into to when you're giving a loan to somebody. If the loan defaults, how much of my money can I recover based off of seizing the collateral? A lot of times, with some businesses, you have your accounts receivable that's used as collateral. But you also have tangible items, real estate as well. And then conditions. What is the purpose of the loan? What's the amount? And based off the current interest rate environment, what can you really qualify for? So purpose of the loan is important. If you get a loan for a specific reason, you need to use that loan for that particular purpose, because it is clauses in the loan documents that if you don't and they find out about it, it can be a default. They can call the note due. The amount's important. You do not want more debt than what you need, because that puts you in a position where you can potentially be over leveraged. But you're responsible and accountable for that amount of debt. So you really only want what you need for the business to be able to manage itself. And then interest rates, you have to be mindful of the interest rates. Now, this is something that um, you can't control per se. Like we've seen interest rates go up, roughly almost 3.5%, 4% in less than 6 months, because of the environment that we're in, trying to head off inflation. But business still needs to be done. So based off the current interest rate environment, when you're strategically planning for your business, you need to understand, when do I need, in the case of capital, when do I need capital? When do I need debt? Based off the life cycle of my company is how it's flowing, the trends that you have, the immediate trends. You need to be going to get that capital and securing that as soon as you know that you need it, not before, and you don't need more than what you need. That is when you have a controller or a CFO that manages the cash flow of the company. Their role is very important. You as an owner, you're gonna be great at a lot of things. Probably gonna be gifted at a couple, but you won't be great at everything. You're not a subject matter expert at everything. Cash flow is king in a business. That is one of the things that you need to be looking at when you're talking about growing capacity. Cash flow is one of the first things that you need to be looking at, because that's how you're going to grow the company. That's how you're making money or losing money. So adding somebody on, such as a controller or CFO, even if they're contracted in the beginning, so they don't work for you, they're not on your salary, they're just a contract employee that you have. That's very important. That's one of the first things that you should be looking at when you start talking about, I want to grow my business. And then the last thing I will leave you with, the why. What is your why behind what you're trying to do, which will often dictate the when, the where, and the how. And what I mean by that is, if you are growing your business, why are you growing your business? That will give you an idea of what you need to do to grow your business, when you can grow your business, and then where are you growing your business. And the why could be a couple things. I mean, that only you know why you started a business. Is this something that I just didn't want a job, so I wanted to start a business, and when I retire, the business goes away? Or is it a job? Is it a business where you're trying to create a legacy and build wealth for your family? That's a little bit different, because the way that you plan strategically and tactically is going to be short, mid, and you're gonna have a lot of long-term planning involved, because you're trying to grow this thing past you. This is supposed to be left after you, and then even after who it's passed on to after them. So you think about, why do I want to increase my capacity? Well, that has to be for growing your business. The model already has to be viable, sustainable, and scalable. So that why is very important, but you need to know what that is. So everything that I just shared with you before, you are planning, you are thinking from that perspective, with that outcome in mind, that my why is, hey, look, when I'm done with the business, when I retire, it's not going to live past me. Or I want to make sure that I'm working to create a certain number of jobs, that I want to create a legacy for my family. and that legacy is to be able to pass on this business. So I want a multi-generational business. You're going to plan accordingly. So take the time to think. Take the time to think through what your journey is going to be based off of where you want to end up. So that way, when you plan and you plan around capacity, you are planning so with that outcome in mind. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. Wish I could have been there, but unfortunately, I will be out of town. But it's always an honor and privilege to have the opportunity to speak to the communities that I serve, and when I can, add value. Thank you.